So Sam, how does it feel to be back on land? How was your first night on shore?
Yeah, it's been a little bit non-stop since I finished, because we were quite late with the tide and there was quite big wind and seas out on the finish line. So, and the 24 hours before the finish were quite intense conditions. Well, actually, the week before the finish was quite intense. So yeah, it hasn't really stopped. I feel like not that long ago I was on my own doing the Vendée Globe, and all of a sudden it's just kind of reconverted to a land life and a fast forward mode. So yeah, it's difficult. I had a good night's sleep and slowly but surely getting back to kind of normal. But yeah, it's been pretty fast forward 24 hours.
Did you sleep all the way through the night?
I had a couple of drinks at the early part of the night,
Oh, that helps.
and then then from the moment I went to bed, yeah, I didn't. There was no waking up. I rolled over once or twice to remind myself I didn't have to get up, but there was no issue of getting back to sleep.
But overall, though, result to be proud of, result to be satisfied with.
Yeah, I mean the objectives is filled. I came here to finish the Vendée Globe and enjoy it while I did it, and that's done. So I'm happy with that. It's a little bit of frustration coming so close to a top five finished and not managing it. But in a whole, the aims of the Vendée Globe have kind of and the objectives of the Vendée Globe are very much filled. Yeah.
A slightly older generation boat, were there phases where you felt at a particular disadvantage, and how did you deal with them mentally and physically?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my boat's known for being fast in flat water and struggles in the Southern Ocean. And it was a reference boat in the last edition, or one of the reference boats. And all the new boats have improved how they go in big conditions and big sea states. And so yeah, I mean, if you look at how my race turned out, that kind of conforms with that theory. And that I had a very good going down the Atlantic and the Southern Ocean. I only lost places for 6 weeks, and then managed to gain a few places back on the way up the Atlantic until my mainsail broke. So yeah, it's not a boat that's easy, but I knew what I was kind of letting myself in for, and you try and make the best with what you've got.
Was your overall strategy, was that in any way influenced by losing your mast in the New York one day?
No, not really. I mean, I lost the mast, but it's not really a lot I could have done about it. It's not a lot you could have sailed differently. You've obviously there's a lot of different alarms on the boat, a lot of different systems, and you try and check on them as much as you can, and make sure you're not taking any unnecessary risks. But apart from doing that, there's not a lot you can do to sail differently and increase your chances of finishing, if you like.
Outwardly, you didn't seem to have any particular downtimes. Is that a true reflection? Or
I mean, honestly, the first 10 weeks of the race were great. I didn't have any. I didn't. I was enjoying it even more than I thought I was going to. And yeah, there's times that are difficult, but I always kind of managed to relativize as to where I was, what I was doing, why I was doing it, and it was fine. And then the last week, I think a combination of factors. The conditions were very unstable, very unpredictable in terms of forecasts. They were kind of rapidly changing forecasts. My mainsail breaking, losing a bunch of places, and also just being able to see the end of the Vendée Globe was actually quite difficult mentally. When before that it was, oh, it's going to finish next year, or don't think about it. And then all of a sudden it was always going to finish next week, and maybe it's Wednesday or maybe it's Thursday, and suddenly it kind of puts a little bit of time reference to it, which adds a bunch of stress. And so yeah, the last week was probably the most difficult part.
talk to us about the losing the mainsail or having the problem with the mainsail. What happened exactly, and did you think the race was over then at that point, or what went through your head immediately?
I mean, it's frustrating. It's obviously what went through my head immediately is the Vendée Globe's changed. I was never really thought I was going to have to drop out because you'll make the boat get to boat to finish line one way or another. I wasn't sure how or when, or whether I was going to be Robinson Crusoe eating dried fish for the next 3 weeks, but I was going to make it to the finish line. That was for sure. And then when I started dropping the main and started seeing what was broken, I kind of started thinking, oh, there's a repair that's possible here, which I could make a jury rig and be able to get home a bit quicker. And so, yeah, I mean, the first thought was, yeah, it's a shame. I'm in fifth place. I'm breathing down the neck of fourth place, and
Mhm.
not far from the finish. And now I've got no mainsail. It's going to be a damage limitation and a bit more of an adventure to the finish. So, yeah, change of scenario, but never give up.
And the actual process, then you were in touch with your shore team and with North Sails.
Yeah, so I pretty much started within an hour of it breaking, repairing it, and chatting to the shore team as to how he would repair it. And yeah, so we took the two bits of the sail, we glued them together to make one, and then that's nowhere near strong enough, so there was putting big patches on the sail, which were 3.5 meters long and about a meter high. So quite big. We did it in sections because it was quite big. And the biggest difficult part was the sea state. Actually, I had waves breaking on the deck from behind the boat and surfing down waves and nose diving into the back of waves. So yeah, trying to stick patches on in wet conditions with waves was pretty complicated. And yeah, it took me probably 36 hours in the period when I slept probably 3 hours combined. So I was pretty shocked by the end of it, but also very happy to get the mainsail back up and get going again.
In terms of the race, saving your J0 was a particular moment, particular win
Oh yeah, for sure. I
compared to
remember I
others.
was in bed and I heard it break, and there's a massive whiz as the halyard flies from the top of the mast, and you wake up and the sail's in the water wrapped around the foil, and my initial instinct was, okay, that sail's gone. I'm going to have to get rid of it. And then it started going underneath the boat, and then I was like, hang on a minute, it'd be crazy not to even try getting it back on board. And actually, it went a lot better than I imagined it going. And I guess it's when you're on your own in the middle of nowhere and you've got no choice but to find a solution, but you end up by finding one because there's no backup. You can't phone a friend. You can't go into a port and find a different solution. You just got to figure it out. So yeah, managed to get it back up, and actually, apart from the piece that broke that dropped the sail in the water, I had no extra damage. So that was great.
Did you find the loneliness or being solo, was that a particular challenge? And did you have a
Mm,
routine for staying in touch with the family?
It's something I was worried about before the start, being on my own for 2.5 months and finding that difficult. And actually, it's something I didn't struggle with at all. There is some bits which are more difficult, or which are easier, if you like, sorry, with communication with land and being able to send photos and videos and voice messages with the family, but it's still not the same as human contact. So no, it was a pleasant surprise, and yeah, managed to keep in touch with the family a bit. It's probably more difficult for the family on land than it was for me because I've just disappeared and life continues for them. But yeah, happy to be back and find a bit of normal again.
And leading the race on 24 different rankings, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely something I'm proud of is the going down the Atlantic when yeah, I was leading the race for quite a bit of time, and I managed to hold on to it until we got into those fast conditions in the South Atlantic. But yeah, no, it was a good start to the race, and hopefully I can come back and hold it for a few more rankings next time.
You made your own routing strategy choices in two particular phases, which really played out for you. Was there more risk at that point, or were you looking at what others were doing?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, uh, part of it is timing and risk. And the one off Brazil, for example, when I went inside at Cabo Frio, it was really low risk for me because the boats ahead of me were offshore, the boats behind me were following me. So I basically had nothing to lose. If it worked, then I was going to gain places, and if it lost, then I was just going to be where I started. And then going down the Atlantic, I guess that's the other one. I didn't really overthink it, to be honest. It was so early in the race. There's 40 boats. I wasn't hoping to be leading. I was just do your own thing, and it played out as planned. So yeah, it's reassuring.
You appeared to relax more and more as the race went on. Is that a fair reflection, or
Uh, I feel like I was fairly relaxed to begin with, to be honest. I didn't feel like I relaxed too much literally until the last week. I was fairly comfortable, and actually the hardest bit of the race, and progressively so, was from Cape Horn onwards, which I kind of told myself before, and everyone tells herself, be careful. Cape Horn feels like the finish, and then you realise you've got 3 or 4 weeks left of sailing to go, so be careful. And I kind of managed to, the first week of the South Atlantic, I managed to keep going through that, and then the closer you got to the finish, the harder it got, and the worse the conditions got close to the finish. It didn't help things.
everyone wants to see you back in 2028? Obviously, that's the question is what do you need to do to challenge the likes of Charlie and Johan? Do you feel there's a gap there, or some of that was weather in terms of performance of the boat and yourself?
I mean,
What
definitely some of that's weather. Putting exactly what the difference was is hard to say. Like, there's so many ways it could these things can pan out. But I mean, what you can control is arriving on the start line in a condition, able to win the race. And we've seen with Thomas Rion, for example, it's not straightforward as just doing that. But in terms of controlling the controllables, you can do that. And I'm confident in, if I could get a faster boat in those conditions, that I could give those guys a run for the money, and that's what I'd like to do.
what would you like to see in terms of a boat design? Having learned from this race, would you prefer an all-rounder or a boat optimized for specific conditions
I mean, what's really difficult is what Vendée Globe do you aim for? Because I mean, Charlie and Johan have both said they never really saw much more than 35 knots, and they only saw that once or twice, and had a fairly nice race around the world. So you could say the best boat for that is what Charlie's got, which is a rocket ship, and especially in flat waters and low sea states. But if you imagine a Vendée Globe in 2020, maybe you prefer Johan's boat, which is a little bit more of an
So this was
off-road.
a fairly atypical race in some, or for them, it was atypical.
If you look at the history of the Vendée Globe, it's atypical. I mean, but part of that is boat design as well, because the boats are now going faster and faster, so you don't get run over by the systems quite so quickly. So yeah, I mean, it's something it definitely needs to be looking into, but I'm not sure it's as straightforward as we all need to have a massive boat now for the next Vendée Globe.
And what did you learn about yourself that you didn't already know? And has the race changed you as a person? Or do you not know yet?
I don't know yet. Yeah, it's a bit too early to say that, and I think you need to ask someone who my wife maybe, as opposed to me. But yeah, I mean, it's just things I've learned for sure, and spending 2.5 months by yourself and managing that and managing the boat, you learn a lot of things. So yeah, it's great.
I mean, it's a 20-year dream for you. What was it like waking up this morning knowing that you'd done it?
I don't feel like I've
don't feel like it?
landed yet. I'm hoping it'll hit me at some stage, but it's yeah, it hasn't really hit me just yet.
And the King and Queen played a significant role. I mean, it was a bit of fun, but it also gave you a little release valve, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I like to put a little bit of humor and a little bit of lightness into the whole atmosphere, because if not, it just kind of get overwhelming and a bit heavy. So yeah, the King and Queen on board was nice to have a little bit of a light moment, and remember, we're just sailing boats and it's a race. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't go to plan.
And they're going home with you, or what's the future for the King and Queen?
So the Queen has been on the boat for a couple of years now, and the King joined her not too long ago. So it's a good question. I don't know yet. They're on the boat for now.
Good, well done. Thank you so much.
Thanks.